Hey, my bonsai trees keep dying, so I had to resort to making my houseplant in Minecraft instead. My original idea was to just make this tree into a treehouse. I know, it's the most original idea I've ever had, but it's a decent starting point. I decided that I want the tree to be holding a floating island. I got this idea from playing Subnautica a while ago. The game has a lot of underwater plants holding up rocks and stuff, and for the longest time I thought that concept was really cool, so I decided to add it in here. Right now I'm working on everything in just basic shapes. I'm not worrying too much about the texture I'm going to use or even really the main color I'm going to use. The majority of how good your build is determined by the shape, so working on it like this without any color or texture really helps you to focus on just the shape and making sure that it looks just right. For the house I used a lot of 5 wide rectangular sections and stacked them on top of each other. A lot of people have been making these stacked houses recently, and I really like them. They have this weird fantastical feel to them, which I think really fits with the idea of having a massive bonsai tree. Of course, you can't have a bonsai tree without a pot. Well, I mean you could, but it makes it a lot more recognizable as a bonsai tree with the pot. I wanted the pot to have a similar look to this one. I really liked the dark ceramic material that they used on a lot of the pots. I was able to get the material to look similar using a gradient of gray concrete, the new mud block, and some smooth basalt. These blocks all have a nice smooth texture, and they also help to create a simulated shadow on the underside of the pot. Once the pot was done, I could move on to detailing the house. I went for the standard medieval fantasy detailing that you see on a lot of builds, but I made sure to not detail too much. I figured out that one of the things that makes it hard to use a lot of texture and gradients in builds is having too much exterior detail. It's a lot easier to add these textures onto a surface that's just full blocks. What I did to get around this is I have certain sections that are going to be for physical details, or the standard ones I usually use. Then I'm going to have other sections which are meant specifically for texture and gradients, and not as much physical detail. I feel like this is good because it makes the build not feel quite as repetitive, and it can also help give the build a sense of structure because a lot of gradients can help to give things a run down feel, and a lot of physical structure can help give things a built up and newer feeling. After coming back from a break from building, I realized that the shape of the tree didn't look quite bonsai-y enough. I know bonsai trees can look like a lot of different things, but I've been building long enough to know that if I call this a bonsai tree and it doesn't look like one, people will call me out for it in the comments. And the last thing I need is a ton of redditors yelling at me for calling a tree the wrong name. What I did to fix this is I decreased the number of branches to just 2 main ones. Since bonsai trees tend to be very well groomed, I've noticed that they tend to only have 1 or 2 branches. I think this helped to give them a lot cleaner of a look, but it also helped it fit into the style a lot better. When I was doing the leaves, I did something a bit different than what I normally do. I usually just use a world edit brush that's a mixture of leaves and air, and that gives the leaves a good poofy feel to them. But since brushes are typically only spheres, I couldn't use that for the shape of leaves. The shaping of the clusters of bonsai leaves tend to be a bit flattened, or even dome shaped. So what I did is I made just a little dome of leaves, and then replaced a lot of it with air. I could then place this shape around it to fill in the leaves and get it to the shape that I wanted it to be. But that's all the time I have for today. If y'all have any ideas of what kind of videos that you want me to make next, leave them in the comments below. I've been really enjoying reading all of the comments I've been getting recently. See ya.